Since man-made machine, he's been compelled to race faster, harder and longer than ever before. In 1964, one of Australia's toughest tests was born, the Sandown 500, a gruelling car killer where basic road-going machinery was tortured. The attraction was too good to refuse, with names like Peter Brock, Alan Moffat, Bob Jane and Lex Davison. Today, the hardware is enough to blow your mind, from boulevard cruisers and highly tuned Italian stallions to the family sedan. Showroom showpieces off the floor and door to door. We welcome back the Sandown 500 for production cars. 34 years of our motorsport heritage wrapped up in a 500-kilometre torture test. Prepare the pit stops and watch the brakes burn right here on Trackside. The Sandown 500 has become one of the most prestigious events in Australian motorsport. Hello, I'm Grant Denyer and welcome to the 34th running of the Clarion Sandown 500. And today, the cars look like this. Stealth bombers in comparison, but still just as international as that first running in 1964. This time, the names of Ferrari, Lamborghini and Porsche. Well, there's a big entry of 40 cars, fabulous drivers and the most exotic and diverse collection of cars ever assembled for the Sandown 500. If anybody knows about the enormity of what lies ahead, it's someone who's won the event 9 times, 7 of those in succession. Peter Brock, you must still marvel at those achievements, surely.
I honestly don't know how it ever occurred. In fact, when I look at the record, I think, whatever happened? I can't believe it. But it is a very difficult task here, getting a car to complete 161 laps. You might say, well, it's only 500 kilometres, but there's so many tight corners. It means a lot of gear shifting, a lot of braking, and a lot of times that engine is actually asked to sort of accelerate that car up and down. Very hard on cars. You'll find a very high attrition rate. Every year you come here for this sort of race, you say, oh, well, it'll all unfold. But every year you can walk away from here being shocked by, hang on, 10 laps into the race, there's cars sort of limping, and it's a tough track.
Thanks, Peter. Well, it's an unusual event today, and one of the rare times when the cars undergo pit stops. The Nations Cup cars, they'll have to do 4 compulsory stops. For everybody else, it's 3, and no doubt it will prove an action-packed feature in today's races. But right now, let's take a look at the teams and the big names involved in today's event.
Sandown 500 is a very famous race, and I was very pleased with doing it with Jon. Jon's a legend in Australia. I'm in from Hong Kong for the event, having a good run so far, and we'll see if we can get it home today.
Yeah, it is great. I was obviously going to drive the Mustang, but there's a couple of other guys going to do that now to evaluate it, so it's a really good opportunity for me to drive with Tom. Tom used to race in Europe and has had a few years out of it, so I'm kind of assisting and helping and guiding as much as I can, and with any luck we'll have a good day.
Just a different style of car altogether, I guess, and you can't rush the gear changes, and it's very low to the ground. It feels more like a sports car, I guess you could say. It's actually it's a bit nicer to drive than what I first thought it would be before I had driven it.
Yeah, the V8's probably a harder car to drive, but at the same token, this one behaves more like a real race car, I guess. It's a bit more of well, it is a sports car, it's a Lamborghini, so it doesn't get any better than this, so we've been going well so far.
We're really looking forward to the weekend. We think it's a good combination. We're looking forward to this special race. It's got a long history, and we're looking forward to being up there.
Paul, got a few interesting toys like paddles as well?
Yeah, look, the Ferrari's a pretty sensational car to drive, and Jon's doing a fantastic job, and I'm just there to support him, and we're here to win this race, make no doubts about that.
We're certainly aiming to take out the Class A part of it, and I think we'll finish pretty well up there amongst all the rest of them as well. The reliability might be a little bit of an issue with some of those more exotic cars.
Cameron, you're familiar with the Commodore, obviously, so are you looking forward to this opportunity?
Yeah, I am, Grant. I think it'll be a lot of fun, actually. I was down for the weekend in Melbourne, and I thought, well, I might as well come out and have a drive. Peter gave me a call, and it's a very nice car to drive, actually, and it's pretty quick around here, too.
It's a great track too, Cameron. Sandown International Raceway, 25 kilometres to the southeast of Melbourne, around about 3.1 kilometres in length. And we've got a two-time winner competing in the field today, and that, of course, is Jon Bowe. The Budweiser Top 10 shootout, though, in action. Murray Carter making a welcome return to racing, his first outing for the year, Craig Denyer.
Yes, qualified in the top 10 and also did very well in the shootout, as did Ian Palmer. Bit of a break lock-up, though, in the Honda NSX on his way to also qualifying in the top 10.
Another youngster into the top 10, Mark Zonneveld, now behind the wheel of a Porsche.
Mark Zonneveld, the fastest so far. Happy with that one?
It was fairly untidy and I missed to get up the back straight, but I only got in the car yesterday for the first time, so that was as good as I could do in one lap.
You've got to be happy, though. We've got a big 500 ahead. What does the top 10 mean?
I don't think it's really that important. 500k is a long way, and I think there'll be a few cars pull out due to mechanical problems, so we're just going to lap around and be there in the end.
Jim Richards' best in qualifying was 1:18, enough to get into the top 10. Let's see how he goes here. A 1:16.9, fastest.
With one lap, you haven't got anyone else on the track to hold you up. So, yeah, no, I'm pleased with the time. That's fine. We'll go from here, hopefully.
Paul Morris in the car he's sharing with John Chulin, also very fast. In fact, third fastest, a 1:17.91 in the Budweiser Top Gun Challenge.
Craig Baird in action in another of the prancing horse entries. He's giving it heaps too.
Craig Baird, 1:18.1, not your fastest lap, but still good for third, and it looks like you had a bit of a lose coming into Dandenong Road Corner.
Yeah, I did. First time I used the curve, and I was listening to everyone on the radio of what they were doing, and just carried a bit much speed through there and jumped off the curb and put it sideways. But, you know, it's a long race. I just want to be there at the end of it.
Darcy Russell, the awesome V10 8-litre Dodge Viper, big brake lock-up.
He's in trouble here.
Throws it all away.
And he thought the Viper would be well suited to this track, so that's a real shame. Jon Bowe now. Can he make an impression on Jim Richards' pole time? Time ticking away. He won't get the fastest time. Second.
Yeah, I guess everybody's probably said the same thing, Grant, but you can't get enough tyre temperature in just one lap, so the front tyres weren't up to temperature. It understeered all over the road, but anyway, I suppose.
Bit of a hairy lap then.
No, not that hairy, but, you know, just wasn't the way you'd like it.
Well, this was a car everybody expected to see on pole position, a 1:16.4 in qualifying, but a very, very untidy lap from Paul Stokel.
Lost a lot of time there into the final turn and loses even more time, Paul Stokel. Let's see how he goes here and see how costly it's been. Over the finish line, 6th quickest for Paul Stokel in the Budweiser Top Gun Challenge, but it's Jim Richards who takes it out from Jon Bowe, John Chulin and Paul Morris from 3.
Yeah, good result too. Also, Neil Bates, tremendous effort. 4th fastest in qualifying, then Craig Baird. Paul Stokel back to 6th, then Zonneveld 7th.
Murray Carter and Palmer, of course, and Russell, after that spin from Darcy Russell, in 10th.
Well, 34 years of history. Since 1964, the Sandown 500 has a great place in Australian motor racing history. In fact, the last time the event was run for production base cars back in 1971, of course, won then by a Ford Falcon GTHO. 4 compulsory pit stops for the Nations Cup cars and also Class A cars from GTP, that's the high performance category, and 3 compulsory pit stops for the remainder of the classes, the sports touring class and the production car class.
The Grand Marshal is Peter Brock.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
All in readiness for the Clarion Sandown 500. Here is the full grid. Jim Richards and Tony Quinn on pole. Waring and Bowe alongside them. John Chulin and Paul Morris, row 2, alongside Steve Webb and the rally champion, Neil Bates.
Then Craig Baird sharing the Ferrari with Steve Beards. Further back in the field, Murray Carter and Cosi Kalazidis. Russell and Palmer in the Chrysler Viper. Floyd McConville, first of the Class A cars, with Hughes, Bates, Anderson Boatwright alongside.
Good effort by Floyd and McConville, just missing out on the top 10. Park and Metchler from 18, Brock and Young, that's Michael Brock from 19, Templeman and Phelan complete the top 20.
McElroy and Yulden, first of the production cars in the XR8, then Kent, Yulden and Luke Yulden. 4th, McFadden Lusty, further back in the Subaru STI, Cave Wright, Osborne and Shaw, Holgerson, Mantello and Walmsley sharing the Toyota Camry in this event.
Now you'll notice at the rear of the grid there, Peter Fitzgerald and Jeff Morgan driving the Porsche GT3. They'll start from position 34. That's because Peter developed some clutch problems with that car yesterday, had difficulty selecting the gear, so he's off the rear of the grid. And also there you'll see it, the Bud Mustang. They've had some dramas with that car. We'll talk more about it. Set for a start in the Clarion Sandown 500. Bowe and Richards, who gets the better of it? Jimmy Richards launches the VIP Pet Foods Porsche away. A great start. Bowe gets swallowed up. Look at them coming from the second row. Dramas there too.
Mark King. So Mark King has problems off the line. Jimmy Richards will lead them into turn one, though. In fact, Stokell, I think you'll find, will slot into second, then Neil Bates third, although Steve Webb starting the car.
Good effort by Steve Webb to get up into third position. Looked as though the entry being shared between Craig Baird and Beards might be up into fourth position. And then it's the first of the Vipers.
Yeah, Darcy Russell back there in the awesome V10 8-litre Viper. This amazing field of almost 40 cars for the Clarion Sandown 500. 17 different manufacturers, 22 different models. Ferraris to Falcons, Mustangs to Mazdas, Corvettes to Camrys, they're all in there.
Cameron McConville doing a good job in the first of the Class A cars by the looks of things in the Holden Commodore that he's sharing with Peter Floyd. Here is Jim Richards sharing this car with Tony Quinn. It's not the car that Jimmy normally uses in the championship, Craig.
No, but what a great job he did in the Budweiser Top Gun Challenge. 16.9 from a car he doesn't normally drive. It was an absolute awesome lap for Jimmy. He didn't put a foot wrong. And when you talk about long-distance races, Sandown, you just about have to say your money would have to be on a Porsche.
He kept it up his sleeve, too, because he did it just enough to get the car into the shootout, if you will, a 1:18, but then shaved almost 2 seconds off it in that dash for pole position. So Jim Richards leads the way as we welcome to the commentary box former karting ace and V8 Brutes racer Damien White. Welcome.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Greg. I actually got to doubt what you said there, Craig. The Porsche obviously is a reliable thing, but looking at the timesheets both through practice and qualifying, the Lamborghini has proven all year is a competitive car. But I also think with combinations, the Ferraris with Bow and Waring, and then you've got Paul Morris in another one and Craig Baird, I think the Ferraris will have a good show too.
Absolutely. In fact, a very, very strong lineup, particularly when you look at the top 10, the cars and driver combinations in there. And Porsche, Ferrari, Viper, Lamborghini, they've all shared their wins this year in the Nations Cup Series. So it's pretty hard to say who might nail this one. But I tell you what, Jimmy Richards, twice previous Sandown 500 winner, good co-driver in Tony Quinn. They'll be a very, very formidable force.
What about this combination too, Craig? In the Diablo, young Stephen Johnson and Paul Stokell, they'll be tough to beat as well.
And nothing between them in qualifying and practice. Rusty, in fact, they've been very, very close on times. Both very, very strong drivers. In fact, we'll look at a replay at the start now from the Lamborghini.
I'd like to say there that for these Nations Cup competitors, this is a bit of a change. Normally in their championship, of course, we see a rolling start, but the performance and production categories don't do that. So we've seen a great start by the Lamborghini here.
Good point that you make, too, when you consider that the Ferrari, traditionally with its paddle shifting system, isn't quick off the line. Now we're with Darren Palmer and Darcy Russell. Look at the way the Viper gains a lot of ground, even there on some of the Ferraris. That's a perfect example off the start.
Yeah, great start for Darcy Russell. Running down towards turn one now, hard on the brakes.
Oh, geez, probably a little bit too hard there. Go on, Darcy, but 161 laps. Don't overdo it on the first turn, for goodness sake.
John Bow on the outside, you could see there, losing a few more positions. What about this for a rocketing effort off the start line? Rick Bates and Bob Hughes.
Yeah, shows the advantage of the four-wheel drive traction in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6, so well away. Not quite the fastest qualifiers in Class A, but right up there.
And look at that Viper go. It just launches off the line, doesn't it?
And problems for Mark King and the car he was to share with Rod Wilson, so they've obviously broken something.
Mark King, one of the stars, of course, in GT Performance, but didn't get off the line, the Delphi Evo.
Yeah, a bit of bad luck. It looks like the centre must have fallen out of the clutch or something. We just lost drive, which I'm really disappointed about.
Bit of bad luck. That's heart-wrenching material, that.
Yeah, I guess that's the way it goes. You got to take this stuff on the chin, I suppose.
Yeah, hard luck for the former champion in that class, and that was a good combination, teaming up with Roddy Wilson, the boss of Pirelli Motorsport tyres here. Now, Craig Baird starting to apply the pressure to Darcy Russell.
And first in for what would be, I would think, a compulsory pit stop, the Peter Field and Damon Templeman Honda S2000.
Oh, drama's here. Yeah. That's the Alexander car, I think. Graham Alexander's Evo 5 in all sorts of trouble. Wonder what's happened there, Damien?
Looks like the whole wheel has fallen off, and I just recall Ross Armand racing one of these cars at Bathurst a number of years ago, encountering the same problem. Now, the ripple strips on this circuit are really fierce. I wouldn't mind betting that it's actually hit one and knocked the wheel off.
I guess that's where I was coming from with that question. You could obviously tell the wheel had come off, but I'd wondered why so early at this stage of the race.
So, four different manufacturers in the top four of the Clarion Sandown 500, being led by Jimmy Richards, but under attack now from Paul Stokell in the Lamborghini. Paul Morris coming through as Alexander tries to limp his way back to the pits.
When you're in a situation like that, you must be just driving with your fingers crossed the entire time, hoping you can limp it back.
No doubt, but I can imagine there's a great amount of frustration in the cockpit there, the poor guy. I mean, no one wants to break down an endurance race, but to do it so early, it's extremely frustrating.
Jimmy Richards under threat here for the lead. Flags being waved too because it's a slow car on the circuit. That is Alexander limping his way back to the pits. But Paul Stokel on a charge early in the Lamborghini.
Yes, in fact, didn't do quite so well in the Nations Cup sprint races, also held yesterday, where he actually blew a front tyre. But this is the car everybody thought would have the fastest outright speed around here.
Has a look down the inside at the end of the main straight, and will do it too. So we've got a new leader in the Clarion Sandown 500. That is Paul Stokel. So Italy gets the upper hand, if you will, over Germany. And that's a good point you make, Sue, about yesterday's race, Craig, because I know Paul Stokel was eager to try and eat into Jim Richards' points lead in the series. There was double points up for grabs, and that really cost him. So Jimmy's still retaining the championship lead at this stage.
Absolutely, and of course you've got Richards and Stokel again running first and second in this Clarion Sandown 500.
Here is a problem right here. No brakes, the driver is saying. Graham Alexander in the car missing a rear wheel. This Sandown track is punishing. We heard Peter Brock say that earlier on today. Hit those curves and it can do gearboxes, wheels and all those sorts of things. It's a tough race and you're seeing it right now.
Steve Webb coming under a bit of pressure from Mark Zonneveld, and John Chulin as well applying the thumb screws in the Ferrari. This car they really threw together at the last minute, I guess, the Prancing Horse boys, as Chulin takes the position away from Zonneveld. It's normally a spares car. John rang up Mark Coffey and the boys and said, come on, what about it? And Mark said, well, hang on a minute. We normally raid this car for spares, but they've thrown it together for both he and Paul Morris, and they're doing exceptionally well at the moment. Let's go trackside, Grant.
Barely 2 laps old, and we've got 2 Evos out. What happened, Graham? It looks like it's just sheared that right rear wheel off.
Yeah, it just snapped. I didn't hit anything, it just broke.
So back at the front of the field, this is the man that continues to lead now, Paul Stokel in the Wilkinson Sword Lamborghini Diablo SVR. In fact, he's got quite a gap now over Jimmy Richards, out to about 3 seconds. Russell and Palmer running third, then Webb, Bates, Chulin, Morris, Downard, Zonneveld, Beards, Baird further back in the field.
Positions updating as it happens for you. Palmer and Peters in 9th. Floyd and McConville round out the top 10, the first in Class A. Back in a moment at Sandown.
Ruthless, passionate, determined. If you could win a case, you wouldn't be working in the U.S. Attorney's office. These lawyers will do whatever it takes to win.
And we wonder why people hate attorneys.
All new Family Law, 8:30 Monday on 10.
Only NZ has the greatest range of hoses and fittings from the largest dealer network. Just call NZ. Nobody tames problems like we do.
Toyota's limited edition Avalon Sorrento comes with $3,600 of extras free. That's air, cruise control, ABS brakes, and alloys. It's also the quieter Big Six.
At the sale at Kmart until Saturday, you'll find children's tops and bottoms for just $5.99 each, and 25% off all sporting footwear. And collect triple Flybuys points on these items. The sale, now on at the store. Kmart, just what you need.
All the top brands, low prices, and loads of savings. Like the Simpson Esprit 6.5 kilo washer for just $749. And the Kenwood Hi-Fi a low $389. Mitsubishi split system air conditioners are only $2,290. And pick up a great deal on a huge range of mobile phones. For top brands at low prices.
We've got it!
It's a beautiful day. It's time to get into Total Rock. 36 tracks on a totally awesome 2-CD set. Get the total package. Get Total Rock.
At some time in our lives, we all need a little care. Those of us with a mental illness need a little extra care. Inclusion is part of the solution. World Mental Health Day, October 10.
What's the one thing guaranteed to ruin your love life?
Hi, Will. It's Leah. You there?
The ex.
I'm sorry for everything.
Is Will about to make the same mistake twice on The Secret Life of Us, 9:30 Monday?
We are back at Sandown, and the action on track, as you can see, just as hot as the action in the pits. Plenty happening in the early stages of the Clarion Sandown 500 as Murray Carter cops a tag.
Big serve from Wayne Park, who's driving the Honda S2000 as Stokel, the race leader, comes through, and Murray looks like he's caused not a great deal of damage to the front end of the Corvette.
But certainly to the back end. Look at that back right-hand tyre and the angle that it is, Damien. There's a lot of damage to the suspension there, and another one with the same sort of dramas.
Yeah, Greg, it seemed like a hell of a lot of damage, but I'm just wondering if there was team orders there. There's word that Wayne Park's joining Stokel in the second Lamborghini later in the year. If he saw him coming, maybe he was clearing the way.
Talking of the Lambo, an early stop here.
First compulsory pit stop for Paul Stokel.
He's going to stay behind the wheel of this car too, so Stephen Johnson obviously going to do the middle stint, I guess you could call it. Jim Richards inherits the lead.
Yeah, again, I think this is the combination that's going to be very hard to beat. Great lap times, very consistent lap times. Tony Quinn can certainly lap in the mid-18s as Jimmy Richards wants to do, so two very strong drivers in this car. And again, they're yet to come in for their first compulsory, their first of 4 compulsory pit stops for Nations Cup and Class A cars.
Is the team that are leading Class A at the moment in the HSV GDS, Cameron McConville and Peter Floyd doing a terrific job. Peter's had some experience in Nations Cup, has a 355 challenge car, and teaming up with Cameron McConville, former GTP champion, former Formula 4 champion, and a regular full-time driver these days in the Shell Championship Series with the Lansvale race team.
And also a regular commentator with you guys, and because I missed out on the chance to drive, I find myself sitting next to you guys rather than out there, but I don't mind that.
Yeah, we'd rather see you in the car too, mate. Never mind.
How important is it at a stage like this in the race? You know what production cars are like, just to be nursing it to get it to the end of the 500Ks.
You're absolutely right, Rusty. It is a difficult thing to bring a production car home, and this Dodge Viper is not known for its reliability. As we have a look inside and listen to that sequential gearbox, doesn't it sound great?
And being caught here too, yeah. Paul Stokel now closing after that first of his pit stops. So this will give us a very good indication of the difference between the V12 Lamborghini, the V10 8-litre Chrysler Viper. Let's ride now.
Looks like a bit of an armchair ride there for Russell. It sounds great though, doesn't it?
The awesome sounds of the V10 Viper down the main straight at Sandown, knocking it back through the sequential gearbox, and that's where I guess the Viper comes into the fore, these big long straights at Sandown, and Stokel wasn't able to do too much with it. Here's where Stokel makes up some ground, though, having a real look at Darcy Russell, and finds a way past, so good move.
That's a great move, and I think you find he's done that, so he's slowed Russell up for the exit of the corner onto the long back straight, and you'll probably find here that Russell won't be able to capitalise with his power and get past because his entry speed onto the straight was so slow.
Beautiful car, the Dodge Viper, about $400,000 worth of development gone into it, built by Bruce Tyson and Phil Kolar. Had problems yesterday where they had a pressure relief problem in the oil pump and it kept blowing oil filters. He missed the championship sprint races yesterday, but back in form for today's Sandown 500.
One thing we haven't mentioned yet, guys, is the safety car. I just wonder how the safety car might play into the team strategies. And you've got a lot of slower cars out there with Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Dodge Vipers. I just wonder if that'll play a part.
Here's John Chulin, the guy we normally see behind the wheel of a Nissan GTR in Nations Cup terms, but has swapped to the Ferrari at the last minute. They have had some problems with that GTR, and there's some talk, Craig, that'll be running at Bathurst as well, behind the wheel of the Prancing Horse, or one of the Prancing Horse Mustangs, due to test that car next week at Calder.
Yes, he's had enough of the Datsun, so he's thrown that away and jumped into the Ferrari. And I'll tell you what, he's done a great job. I mean, he's lapping within a second of Paul Morris's times around Sandown, which I think is a fabulous effort. He drove a Ferrari at the Queensland round of the Nations Cup Championship.
Dramas here. That's the Darcy Russell entry. Now, it did look like the back left had suffered some sort of problem. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. It's difficult to tell with the Armco in the road of the shot.
You're probably right, Greg. You're putting a lot of power down and a lot of stop-go corners on this track. I wouldn't be surprised if he's damaged something in the drivetrain, possibly an axle.
Does look like it's sagging a little bit in the back left there, so we'll endeavour to find out from the pits about possibly Darcy's radioed in and said what the problem is. Let's rhyme with him and see if we can figure out what's happened here.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounded like something just twisted and broke from the sheer power. It's got a hell of a lot of torque, that car.
It's certainly rubbing on the bodywork underneath. You can hear it, whatever it might be.
And I just wonder if this will bring out what I just mentioned before, the first safety car.
So bad luck for Darcy Russell in the car that he's sharing with Darren Palmer. As we see Peter Fitzgerald and Jeff Morgan in the Falcon Tyres Porsche come through. They've had a shocker of a weekend, non-stop gearbox problems and clutch problems in this car. In fact, they worked on the car at about 4:30 this morning. Again, had problems in the warm-up this morning where they lost 5th gear. Jeff Morgan elected to start the car, but in a car that's generally so well prepared by Fitzgerald Racing Services, a shame to see them have so many dramas this weekend.
We've just heard from the pits. We understand that incident with Darcy Russell, which occurred on the 17th lap, is in fact a broken drive shaft. So that's what appears to have forced that car out at this stage. I'm wondering if they might be able to limp it back in some way and repair it, but that's rotten luck. They had some oil cooler problems yesterday, Craig, in the sprint race as well.
So, Morgan driving the Falcon Tyres Fitzgerald Porsche. Plenty of speed too, in fact. Remember, they've come from the back of the grid, so they've got to work their way through the field. They lost about 17 seconds on the first lap just in traffic alone. So a big job to come through from the back of the field in this car.
New entry here for Wayne Boatwright. We're used to seeing him in the older model Subaru WRX. This is the latest model available.
Yeah, this is running second in the high-performance class. Car that's owned by Scotty Anderson. Michael Sainsbury very much part of the team. Oh, Chulin has turned it around. I think that's Dandenong Road corner.
It's the final turn off the back of Dandenong Road.
Might I suggest that as the laps go on and the...
He's having trouble refiring this, Damien.
I just think he's waiting for the traffic to go past. The turning circle wouldn't be that great. Although he's got a lot of room there. Maybe you're right. Maybe he is having trouble.
I'd say the car's stalled and it's obviously flooded or fueled up. He's having trouble getting it to fire. So bad luck for Paul Morris and John Chulin. Let's have a look on the replay.
Now what's happened there? He's just gotten up onto the ribble strip.
I just think he's, as Craig just pointed out, 17 or 18 laps in now. The tyres are getting a bit saggy and the fuel load's getting lighter. And you just got to adapt your style to that. I just think he's more worried about the car he's just passed.
What would be the difficulty in trying to, I guess I'm clutching at straws here, but what would be the difficulty in trying to refire that car? Would it be fuel vaporisation? What would it be?
Probably a good chance that that's exactly what it is, but let's just hope that he can get it fired up and get back moving again.
So Jimmy Richards continues to lead the Clarion Sandown 500 in the VIP Pet Foods Porsche GT3. A commanding lead now, further back in the field. Again, we look at Wayne Boatwright coming through in that sensational brand new 2001 spec Subaru STI.
Just a matter of interest for you too, as we update those results on the bottom of your screen, you'll notice there's A's and B's in the right-hand corner of each of those results. That indicates what class each of those drivers is competing in. So keep in mind there's races going on within the overall race here in the Clarion Sandown 500.
This is Greg Haysom in the Nissan 200SX Spec R, being chased by Len Cave in the Honda Integra Type R.
And I note there, just before we go into Russell, that he has got the Donut King colours in the right combination.
So, Darcy Russell trying to limp his way back to the pits.
It's a real shame. That car was a genuine outright contender, and they've lost a stack of laps now, hoping to get it back to the pits, obviously, and replace a drive shaft. We understand from the pits that the crew are madly trying to search one. They actually don't have a spare.
Falcon XR8 is running in Class C, the production car class, being driven by Kent Yilden, and to share the drive with his son Luke, of course, former Australian Formula 4 champion.
Scott Loadsman leads that particular class, Class C, but had a mixed day yesterday. Craig, a win, but some dramas in the second event. Here's Cameron McConville continuing to do a good job in this HSV GTS.
When you consider he's inside the top 10, he's done a tremendous job in the high-performance class. This is the 300-kilowatt HSV Commodore, and he's giving it an absolute caning, Rusty, so I don't know whether it'll last the distance or not.
I think Darcy Russell wishes he was giving it an absolute caning as well. He has managed to get it back to pit lane, which is great. A shame for this combination. Young Darren Palmer and Russell had high hopes in this car, which would be a strong runner at Sandown. Jim Richards continues to reel off the laps here. He leads the way in the Clarion Sandown 500. Second position to Paul Stokely. He has had his first pit stop, but remains at the wheel. Zonneveld in third, Steve Webb in fourth, and Craig Baird in fifth. Back with more in just a few moments.
Making news this afternoon, the sister of jailed aid worker Deanna Thomas begs America to delay attacking Afghanistan until Deanna and fellow Australian Peter Bunch are freed. Qantas bosses reject suggestions of using armed guards to boost security on the airline's flights. New York's Empire State Building reopens its observation deck after the September 11 attacks, and warnings that vitamin C does nothing to ward off the common cold. More in an hour.
can't beat the 2001 Qantas Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix.
Total rock. A totally awesome 2-CD set, including Lifehouse's #1 smash. U2, Train and Incubus. Powderfinger, Jeff Buckley and Silverchair. 36 total rock tracks, including UMI, Reef and Something for Kate. There's Fuel, Smash Mouth and heaps more. Get the total package. Get Total Rock.
At the sale at Kmart until Saturday, you'll find PlayStation 2 consoles worth $687, now only $496, and Nile printed sheet sets, all sizes at just $19.99 each. The sale, now on at Kmart. Just what you need.
Don't you just love the way Honda tillers start? First time, every time. Time to get a Honda tiller.
Available from these Honda power equipment dealers.
Babyco Direct loves your baby.
Because they save you money, honey.
Babyco Direct. Fantastic range and prices. Prams, strollers, bassinets, cradles, cots, mattresses, blankets, sheets, change tables.
Potties and baths.
Portacots, lambskins, rocking bladder chairs and high-low chairs. The Anchor's Rest Holiday Inn is the perfect place for that relaxing getaway. Comfortable, spacious units await you after a busy day of boating, cycling or just lazing by the pool. The Anchor's Rest Holiday Inn, Raglan Parade, Warrnambool. At Ballarat Daewoo, we've got more to like. Daewoo Australia is offering 4 years free care. That's right, 4 years, 100,000 kilometre free care, including parts, labour, lubricants and roadside assist Australia-wide. So help us celebrate Daewoo's 100,000th sale in Australia. And now with the backing of the world's largest vehicle manufacturer, General Motors. But hurry, this is for a limited time only. Ballarat Daewoo, more to like.
Well, this is it, the big one, the challenge. It's time to take on the mountain, everyone's favourite, the FAI 1000 at Bathurst, October 6 and 7. Where else? 10 Victoria, your home of motorsport.
This is the Clarion Sandown 500. Time now for a race update. Here's Grant.
Reliability was going to be so much of a responsive and important part of this race, and we've sure seen it so far, and it was over before it even began for Mark King and Rod Wilson. The Evo didn't even make it off the line with a broken drive shaft or something in the drivetrain there. Graham Alexander, the second Evo, also out. It was an early pit stop though, only 2 laps old for Haynes, Kenny and their Jacob in their WRX STI. That was a splash and go, a strategy that might come to effect a little later on in the program. Reliability is an issue, as we said. Dennis Gilbert, he did a tyre just from running those curves. The Lamborghini, it also took its opportunity to do an early stop, and it was a slick one as well. And now he's closing in on Jim Richards by about a second a lap. We've had 3 cars overheat so far, and now we've just seen Darcy Russell retire the Dodge Viper. Again, another drive problem, which indicates that these drivers are going to have to stay off the curbs if they're going to make it to the end.
Curbing on the track looks like it's a good idea too, Grant, as though Mark Zonneveld has a moment. That's at the end of the front straight into that left-hander. He gets back onto the track, which is good. But the interesting thing to come out of that race update, Damien, I think, is the different strategies people appear to be employing. We've seen John Chulin come in for an early stop. We saw the Wilkinson Sword, Lamborghini Diablo of Paul Stokel come in. Both of those guys opting for an early splash. So strategy, a real factor early on.
Absolutely, but what does surprise me is that the Richards-Quinn combination...
Oh, here they are.
As I say,
hey, look at this. So they elected to stay out for a little while longer, and Jimmy out of the car, Tony Quinn getting in.
I'm sure he's had a quiet word with Tony. We're in this race, we're in with a chance. Just stay cool, stay calm, just go and circulate around at good, consistent laps.
Jimmy's won the Sandown 500 before. He knows what it takes to win.
Absolutely. So there's Jimmy Richards' last couple of words of advice for Tony Quinn. And away he goes in the car that Tony normally drives in the Nations Cup Series. We mentioned before, it's not Jimmy Richards' normal car, but still very, very fast in lap times.
A pass on Steve Webb by Paul Stokel. That early pit stop means that Paul's had to, I guess, work his way back up the order, and he's doing exactly that in the Lamborghini.
Great to see an Italian car back at the front of the field, and an Alfa Romeo won the very first 1964 Sandown 500 in the hands of Dr. Roberto Bussolino and Ralph Sarch. Many different manufacturers over the years have won this event: Alfa, Holden, Ford, Mazda, BMW 635, Nissan Skyline. So will it be Ferrari, Porsche or Lamborghini this year?
It's going to sound like a Kiwi when I say this, but here's Steve Beards and Craig Baird at the wheel of the Ferrari, and a good combination too. Great to see Craig back behind the wheel of a car. He was with the Stone Brothers Racing team last year, more recently with John Faulkner at the VIP Pet Foods 500 and teaming up with Steve in the Ferrari, which he's driven earlier this year.
Maguire's Killer Shine. Class updates shows, of course, Stokel and Johnson still leading in the Lamborghini.
And behind there, the Tulin Paul Morris entry. Looks like Paul Morris at the wheel of that car now, so they've obviously had their driver change. This is a good effort by Stokel and Stephen Johnson. A lot's been expected of this car, and particularly the big straights here at Sandown, really suiting it. Let's go to the pits. Brenton Ramsey.
Okay, well, Craig Baird, race leader, into the pits. A driver change. The car running well?
Yeah, the car was really good, actually. It's just a matter of working the traffic. Like, we probably weren't the quickest car on the track, but we're probably the most consistent. So, car was running good. We're just sort of keeping times and gaps with the Lamborghini, but they got probably a bit more pace than us because they can use it down the straight. But hey, that's their sort of story, and we've got another little one over here. So we'll just keep doing what we're doing and see what happens at 161. Hopefully, we'll be there.
Yeah, there's plenty of stories to emerge, full stop, from the Prancing Horse operation. Gee, it's impressive, isn't it? Mark Coffey, Tony Raftis and Nigel Barclay and the boys have really got their hands full.
Yeah, running 3 Ferraris this weekend. They were a bit unsure about the reliability of the 360 challenge around Sandown. So good to see that all 3 are still running.
Zonabel pointing there. I think he might be telling the team, get ready.
That usually is a good sign when they're pointing to the pit saying, I want to get in, but I'm surprised he doesn't use his pit radio to tell them that.
Tell you what, he's done pretty well, Zonaville. I've been very impressed by his performance in this car this weekend.
Yeah, exceptional young guy who's had some experience in super touring and knows he's just got to nurse that car to the end. Here's the move by Jeff Morgan in the Falcon Tyres Porsche. Gets around Tony Quinn, so this incredible charge by Morgan in a car that he's sharing with Peter Fitzgerald from almost the rear of the grid. They've done so well to get that car up the order.
Yeah, great win from Jeff Morgan in the Monster.com Dodge Viper yesterday in the Nations Cup sprint round. Elected not to run that car in this race, instead co-driving with Peter Fitzgerald.
And that whole scenario was actually played right into the hands of Darcy Russell with the Monster.com Viper sitting out the back. Jeff's been good enough to loan them a drive shaft, so that gets him out of a bit of a jam. Here's the 300 kilowatt GTS leading Class A, Cameron McConville. And another combination expected to do well as well, Scott Losman, who actually leads Class C in the championship, and he's teamed up with young Warren Luff.
Fitzy in the pits now. So, in fact, Morgan in the pits about to hand over to Peter Fitzgerald, the car owner. So the Falcon Tyres Porsche all the way from the back of the grid. Quick stop too, it looked like.
I think the team will be very pleased with that stop. It looked very smooth, very slick, and that'll put them in a good position for the remainder of the race.
And Fitzy will be all pumped up too after those clutch problems and gear selection dramas that they suffered yesterday to have worked up the order so well. Big things still to come from that car. Christian de Gostin there in the MR2, really riding the curves.
I'm surprised if he's going to keep that up for 161 laps. I don't think he'll make the finish.
Just on the road ahead of these two, John McElroy in the Falcon XR8 running second in the production car class. And on screen now, Kent Youlden, who's running third. Again, we mentioned before his son Luke won the Australian Formula Ford Championship. Father and son.
Oh, drama's there. That's McConville. Is that actually Peter Floyd is at the wheel, so they've had their pit stop.
So what's happened there? Now, over this kind of distance, 4 hours around Sandown, we always thought these cars may be a little suspect in the drivetrain.
There's no damage there. Definitely no damage, Damien.
It's interesting that Peter Floyd was actually saying that the reliability problems of the other cars would play into their hands, and unfortunately they found themselves with problems themselves.
Second pit stop coming up here for Paul Stokel. Word from the pits is that Stephen Johnson is standing by, so Junior about to get in for his driver's stop.
And this will be very interesting to see, Greg. It's a low, deep car this season, and Stevie Johnson's not a little boy. I mean, I know he's lost a lot of weight, but look at the size of him. Let's just see how good he does.
Stop going pretty well at the moment.
Actually slotted in there pretty impressive. I reckon the team will be pleased with that effort. Actually, the driver change in the tight bucket, this is a critical component of the whole race. You can win or lose a race with what exactly they're doing here, and it looks like the whole Lamborghini team has done a great job. You see Paul there has picked up his seat insert. You may or may not know that if you leave anything out there in that pit lane, you will be penalised. So he's done a good job to remember that, and out they go.
Only car running centre lock wheels, just that one single nut, so the stop should have been quick. As we look at the Russell Viper, back out into pit lane, so hopefully we'll see the car back out on the track.
Oh, dramas here. Barbecue time.
I tell you what, anyone that comes over to my house on a Sunday afternoon, that's what it looks like at the Barbie time.
Dramas for Neil McFadden as a result of all that. He is a young karter who many are touting for a big future here in Australia, and that has put an end to his race here, Craig.
Car is sharing with John Falk. Looks like the cab is so full of steam or smoke you can hardly see where he's going.
Now, this is a good move down the inside by Peter Fitzgerald here, and that would be on Neil Bates. And we've got a fire in the pit here.
This is the Tom Waring, John Bower Ferrari. So a driver change too. Bower should have got in the car.
He's at the wheel. And this is shades of the Queensland 500 a couple of years ago for John Bower when a small fire happened at the back of the Cat Ford. So
yeah, that slowed the pit stop considerably too. You can see they've lost momentum. Now the team's starting to get it back together.
I've got to say, though, I think they handled that extremely well. And into those situations, the first thing you do is not panic, and I think they did a great job. They understood that the flames could potentially come back as they did, and they treated it just the way they should, without panic.
Now, Bates has gotten back around Peter Fitzgerald, so I wonder if Fitzgerald has developed some sort of problem there. He slowed dramatically down the back straight.
Keep an eye on the lap time. So Craig Baird in the Ferrari 360 Challenge, still the race leader in the Clarion Sandown 500. Doing a tremendous job in the car that he's sharing with Steve Beers, the 33-year-old Victorian data storage person. He's raced quite a bit in the UK, actually. In fact, he raced a Reynard in the 1993 UK Formula 4 Championships, done Formula Vauxhall, Formula 3 Class B drives in 92 and 93, but good to see him back in motorsport at the top level.
Tony Quinn, who we saw very recently having a win in the Porsche Cup race at Lakeside, in that same car, which is doing a terrific job here in the Clarion Sandown 500. Once again, Fitzgerald has found something down the back straight. He has another go at Neil Bates and gets back past him. So, not quite sure what that moment was a lap or so ago, Damien White, but he's been able to find his way back past.
I was actually worried there for a moment that the gremlins in the gearbox had come back to haunt them, but it appears as though it's all cleared up.
Jump aboard the big Dodge Viper, which they have repaired. We saw that before they put a fresh drive shaft in it.
We'll find that Darren Palmer's now behind the wheel.
And after doing some laps in the Formula 3 in the event this weekend, he certainly knows his way around this track, and he's familiar with left-hand drive cars, having spent a lot of time in America.
A couple of Formula 3 competitors actually in the field this weekend. Darren Palmer is one of them. Another, a young Kiwi by the name of Danum Templeman, who has teamed up in one of the Honda S2000s.
Who's in fact, Rusty, who's in fact Darren Palmer's teammate in the Formula 3 category.
Templeman with Peter Phelan in one of the Honda S2000s. Right now you're in a Dodge Viper, and look at the speed differential there as he goes past Rob Chadwick down the back straight, heading towards the very end of Dandenong Road.
At 250 Ks, just before they lift off to turn in here.
He was on the picks reasonably late then too for an endurance race, and they're out of the featured results now, and they're just out there to get some good coverage for their sponsors, and he obviously has some sort of mission to
Well, just it's funny you say that, because we're just checking the times here at the moment. He is on a real quick one here at the moment, Darren Palmer, so we'll keep an eye on this time and just see how he goes. We're heading toward the end of the lap, and Palmer on an absolute flyer in the Dodge Viper, the car that he shares with Darcy Russell. The dramas early on in the race. They're back out there and fighting away now. We'll check the time for you as he comes across. A 1:17, that's the quickest lap so far in the race. So an impressive performance.
That's excellent. He said to me that he set the fastest lap in the Formula 3 for the weekend. He wanted to do the double and do it in this race, so good on him.
So whether he can maintain that pace, of course, we'll wait and see. Once you get under about the 118s of the Vipers, they do tend to boil the brake fluid in the car. On screen at the moment, though, we're looking at Class B leader. I think it's Rick Shaw and Colin Osborne in the Toyota MR2. Having a pretty much a trouble-free run to this point in the Clarion Sandown 500 anyhow. The car that, of course, Fangio drove so well at Mount Panorama in the 12-hour race many, many years ago.
The entry of Steve Beards and Craig Baird into pit lane once again. For another stop by the looks of things.
Rick Bates in the car is sharing with Bob Hughes now. The Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6 leading the high-performance class now that Cameron McConville and Peter Floyd have retired the Holden Commodore. Brand new engine rebuilt for this car for this meeting after a big blow-up at Eastern Creek. In fact, the engine was built by Matthew Hughes, Bob's son, and actually drove the car from Canberra all the way to Melbourne just to run it in.
This is the Clarion Sandown 500. Steve Johnson, who you can see on screen, continues to lead the way over a minute ahead of Craig Baird, who's come into pit lane. Peter Fitzgerald in third, Tony Quinn in fourth. Neil Bates doing a great job there in fifth. First of the Class A cars is Bob Hughes and Rick Bates.
Interesting to see John Bower 2 laps down, then Chilton Morris back there in ninth spot. First of the high-performance cars, of course, is the Bob Hughes car, but Anderson Boatwright running second. First of the production cars, Loadsman Luff in the Holden Commodore.
We'll go right through the field for you here. Yulden and Yulden doing a great job in C-Class. They're in position 18. Little further back, Brock, that's Michael Brock, and Young in the Mitsubishi Lancer. But this is the Clarion Sandown 500. Come back and join us in just a few moments.
In this town, there's There's nothing more frightening than perfection.
Welcome to my nightmare.
James Marsden, Katie Holmes, in the thrilling network premiere, Disturbing Behaviour, 8:30 tonight.
Time to call Novus Windscreen Repairs. For windscreen chip or crack repairs, scratch removal or replacements, trust Novus to save you money. Choose Novus mobile or drive-in workshop service. Novus repairs what others can't. Trust Novus.
Here's a story about two labourers. They enjoyed, or so they thought they did, of doing things by hand, the hard way. But that was right up till the time this little bloke arrived with his flash Kanga loader. He was doing loads more work in much less time and barely breaking into a sweat. And come the end of the day, the results always speak for themselves. So finally, these two caught on. Kanga loaders, the safe, productive and effective alternative.
Hi, Tammy Van Wisser here for National Water Week. Last year I swam the whole length of the Murray River. It gave me a lot of time to think about rivers and water quality. As soon as I finished, I got involved in National Water Week. Australia is a dry country. We can't afford to waste or pollute water. Water conservation is everyone's responsibility. Dive into National Water Week and help protect, conserve and save water.
National Water Week, brought to you by Southern Rural Water.
This is Nissan Country.
No need to drive too far when you're looking for a brand new car. 'Cause now you're in Nissan Country. You're gonna get a better deal by far. I know you, and you know me. You're buying from a friend in Nissan Country. I know you, and you know me. You're buying from a friend in Nissan Country.
Well, this is it, the big one, the challenge. It's time to take on the mountain, everyone's favourite, the FAI 1000 at Bathurst, October 6 and 7. Where else? 10 Victoria, your home of motorsport.
7:30 Wednesday.
It's our very own fairy tale.
All the Big Brother housemates live in a 2-hour extravaganza.
I'm playing Puss in Boots.
I'm Donkey.
It's going to be so much fun.
And it's all for charity. Big Brother's Starlight Challenge live 7:30 Wednesday.
Time now for a race update in the Clarion Sandown 500.
Well, at the hour mark, it's been another sensational couple of laps because we've seen plenty of retirements and plenty of action. We saw Jim Richards come in and hand over to Tony Quinn. Tony went out there at the VIP Pet Foods Porsche and started setting the fastest times of the session so far. Stokel came in for his second stop and handed over to Stevie Johnson. This is a sentimental event for Stevie. His dad's won it twice, and we know that he wants to win it because he's won the Queensland 500, and he'd love a triple header this year if he takes out the 1000 as well. Cameron McConville, another V8 supercar driver. Unfortunately, he retired. His HSV Commodore did a diff. Have a look at this for a smoking problem. A WRX doing its crop duster impersonation. Neil McFadden in behind that wheel couldn't see a thing but managed to limp it back to pits and change the turbo. But it's just hiding up right down here in pit lane, and we look forward and count down this 500-kilometre endurance race.
More than 20,000 spectators through the gates over the 3 days here. That's, I guess, in some ways a modest crowd, but, Craig, it's the biggest for a round ever in the ProCar Championship.
Absolutely. Just great to see this Sandown 500 back on the racing calendar, Rusty. So much heritage. And at the moment on screen, of course, you've got Mark Zonnefeld, Mike Downard, then the Fitzgerald Porsche being chased down by Tony Quinn in car 43, the car that he's sharing with Jimmy Richards. All these guys racing in the Maguire's Killershine Nations Cup category of this Sandown 500, this time broken up into 5 different classes.
Now, we've been watching over the course of the last few laps just what's going on with the Fitzgerald Porsche. It seems to have... Oh, we've got dramas here for Stephen Johnson. Massive suspension problems on the front left.
That looks nasty. That looks like, to me, the whole upright has just collapsed. It's just gone.
So he's got a long way to get back to pit lane as well.
You talked about clipping the curbs and oh, now he's not even clipped the curb there when that's let go, and it's happened at a time where the car was just due to turn in left when it's had minimal weight on that side of the wheel.
I've got no explanation for that, Rusty, but I must say that He's on the brakes at that point. Something's broken. And to his credit, the brakes locked up. He got straight off them. If he hadn't have got off them, he would have cleaned up Megan Perkin there in the Mazda.
He's done well here, Stephen Johnson, to get it back into pit lane, but look at the damage.
This is the race leader.
Yeah, the left-hand corner of the Lamborghini not looking good at all. In fact, Stevie Johnson, who's inside, struggled to pull the car up. The team has signalled that the suspension geometry in the front and the componentry is broken. Stephen Johnson climbs out. What a disappointing finish. This car was on an absolute charge. In fact, it's been the most successful car in Nations Cup this year, with quite a few wins to their name. In fact, 8 wins from 13 starts. But Stevie Johnson climbs out a dejected man. This is one sentimental race. He's not going to win.
Well, bad luck for Team Lamborghini. Looking so good. One lap up on the rest of the field to have that happen.
Yeah, just getting some word through now, Craig. In fact, we're told it might have been a broken left front wishbone on that Lamborghini. So the suspension dramas take their toll on this race, which is in some ways becoming a race of attrition. We've lost Cameron McConville. We've lost the Lamborghini now. We've had dramas for Darcy Russell in the Dodge Viper. They managed to get back out there, but they're a lot of laps down.
Well, Stephen Johnson, by all accounts, it was a bit of a surprise that happened to you.
Well, not to me it wasn't, because I thought something was amiss. For the last 15 or so laps in my stint, the steering wheel kept getting more and more off to the left, and I thought, gee, that's a bit strange. I thought maybe I had a flat right front tyre that was going down slowly, but obviously not. I went over to the back corner there, coming onto the back straight, jumped on the brakes, and the left-hand front just had an almighty bang, and yeah, the wheel folded under, so something's broken under there, but I'm really not quite sure what, and I'm glad it happened there and not at the end of the back straight.
Obviously it's disappointing for you, but this race was a sentimental one because it's one that your dad won twice. And coming off the Queensland 500 victory, I know you wanted to win this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was just one of those things, you know, it was going along fine, and the car was fantastic. It had the speed, but unfortunately something's gone amiss in the front upright area there somewhere, whether it's a wishbone or a front upright, and you know, could have been caused by a wheel bearing starting to seize, I don't know, but the main thing is that we're out of the race, unfortunately.
Here's to it not happening in your V8 at Bathurst.
Mate, I'm glad it's happened here and not at Bathurst, let me tell you.
Hard luck, Stu.
Thanks, mate.
Jim Richards has come in from his stint and handed over to Tony Quinn in the VIP Pet Foods Porsche. A little bit of a slow stop here by the looks of things. In fact, he stalled there by the looks of it. He's got it going again now. So that's a costly stop.
Very costly. As I said in their stop earlier on, that Jim's probably said to Tony, just be cool, stay calm. And in that situation, he's got a little bit nervous and just stalled it. Nothing too dangerous about that. But getting back to what Stephen Johnson said, damn right, he's lucky it didn't happen at the end of that back straight. And yeah, sure he's disappointed, but there'll be other times that he can come back. I'm sure PROCAR will be back next year with the Clarion Sandown 500.
During that pit update there, we also caught sight of a pit stop for Peter Fitzgerald and Jeff Morgan. They've been struggling for several laps now without fifth gear. They're persevering on, but they're basically taking it right up to the rev limit in fourth gear down the back straight, and at times, just looking at the timing monitor here, they've dropped down to the 1 minute 20, so that's the reason why the Falcon Tyres Porsche hasn't been able to maintain the pace.
So this is second and third on the road now. It's Neil Bates, Steve Webb, Porsche GT3, car 22. Then the Morris Tulin Ferrari 360, a new race leader. That's the Steve Beard's Craig Baird Ferrari. So it's Italy, Porsche, Italy, the top three in the Clarion Sandown 500.
I was talking with Cameron McConville the other day, and he was saying he's teaming up with Rick Bates in the upcoming Bathurst Enduro, and he said it's amazing the competitiveness between the two brothers. Here we are here. We've just seen Neil a few moments ago in the Porsche. This is Rick Bates, who Cameron will be teaming up with at Bathurst. He said when they are ever in a situation where they're like this and they're competing against one another, it's who can go that hundredth or even thousandth of a second quicker than the brother.
Great drive from Michael Brock, Gary Young into the top five in Class A in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 5, being led by this man though, the Bob Hughes Rick Bates Evo 6, as it comes in for yet another one of its compulsory pit stops. Can only do about 50 minutes on fuel this car. Only got a very small tank, about 50 litres. As we go back and look at Scotty Loadsman and Warren Luff leading the production car class in the 5.7 litre Commodore.
I'm actually surprised to see someone there run to the passenger's door, and if they don't get a penalty, I'll be very, very surprised. He didn't have the full protective gear on covering his face, which is a requirement in the pit lane stops.
Yeah, no doubt the officials will be paying close attention to that. The combination of Warren Luff and Scott Loadsman doing well. Scott actually leads the class in terms of the Championship C class, but it's only by 5 points now over Brian Carr. following yesterday's 2 races in this class. Craig Loadsman had dramas in the second race, and the championship is pretty tightly poised.
Absolutely. Talk about the history of this event as he comes in for a pit stop. Last time Holden Monaro won the Clarion Sandown 500, or the Sandown 500 was back in 1968. The 327 GTS driven by Tony Roberts and Bob Watson. And of course the Monaro about to be released this year as a new model in the Holden lineup yet again.
Wayne Boatwright's new Subaru WRX, the Altiris entry.
While we're on the subject of new Class A cars, it's very disappointing for my boss and sponsor, Quirks Refrigeration owner Peter Boylan, who has entered a brand new BMW M3 and due to problems missed out on the race.
Beautiful car, Damien. That BMW M3 should be a real threat at Bathurst too, I would think, at the showroom showdown. Problems for the Greg Hayson Nissan 200SX.
Now here's someone we haven't seen much of this race. They've been keeping a bit of a low profile, the Jon Davison-Tom Waring combination. We saw a bit of a fire, but not much else of them.
Now, this will be interesting because Jon Bow, in terms of their strategy, was originally only going to run the middle stint. Tom was going to do the beginning and the end, if you will, but Jon is staying behind the wheel here. So obviously, as a result of that fire, they are desperate to make up some time.
Absolutely. Brand new car too. It only had 65 Ks on the clock before this weekend. It's owned by Tom Waring, the merchant banker from Hong Kong. So it is a brand new car. He's raced the European or Ferrari Challenge Series, I should say, in a 355 saloon car racing in the UK. I think they'll be a very quick combination towards the end of this race.
Got some dramas here. It looks like the Craig Baird, Steve Beard's entry. Just trying to
chop up of the old Shell Helix by the looks of it.
I told him to cut the engine, so not sure.
You kind of sort of cut back to what Craig said a moment ago, talking about the Tom Waring, Jon Bow entries. We see them going down the back straight. Sure, I think if you want a driver out there that's probably one of the most consistent and strong performance, put Jon Bow in the car. But just looking at the timesheets, Tom Waring's actually not that far off Jon Bow's time.
In fact, he's done an 18.2 so far. He set the fastest lap in this very car, which I think you'll find is pretty much now in the top 3 of this race. In fact, they're running second. So it's Steve Webb, Neil Bates in the Porsche GT3 leading, Waring and Bow second, Tony Quinn, Jimmy Richards third in the VIP Pet Foods Porsche.
Hughes and Bates the first in A-class. Anderson and Boatwright also doing a good job there in position 9. The top 10 completed by Young, Zane and Templeman, and Peter Phelan in the Honda S2000. Loadsman and Luff just outside the top 10. Time now, though, for a trackside pit stop.
Well, it's a one-make series. It's probably the fastest one-make series that's ever been in Australia. The cars are actually proper race cars. They're built by Rally Art in Japan, and they're very fast cars, so it makes it very interesting.
The Toyo Mitsubishi Mirage Series features identical cars in their own 8-round series.
The fact that you can turn up at the track and just bring your race suit and helmet and drive, that's really the appeal for me. It's just not having to worry about preparation or getting that car to the track. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the difference between me doing it and not doing it.
18 to 20 cars generally fight out each championship round in a closely controlled formula.
We bring 12 Sutherland Mitsubishi Rally Art mechanics to every race meeting. We have a service truck, which we bring 5 spare engines and 10 gearboxes. We try to make it affordable racing. There's been one-make racing before, but they've been basically production cars. These are Rally Art prepared in Japan race cars.
The ultimate, deadly, killing machine.
It's so big, and one was recorded that had in it the body of a drowned rat.
Sandra Sully presents The Private Life of Plants, 7:30 Monday.
At the sale at Kmart until Saturday, you'll find children's tops and bottoms for just $5.99 each and 25% off all sporting footwear. And collect triple Flybuys points on these items. The sale, now on at the store. Kmart, just what you need.
At Barry Foss The Good Guys, come and see the biggest showroom with the largest range of quality brands. We just won't be beaten on price. At Barry Foss The Good Guys, pay less, pay cash.
Like a take-anywhere spotlight, no cords, can be recharged in the ute or at home. Get one free during the Verbac Spring offer from your Verbac reseller. This Selector cordless rechargeable spotlight is yours free when you buy any 3 eligible Verbac products. Fly control with Verbazine spray-on or liquid treatment, or lice control for up to 20 weeks with Verbac IGR pour-on. Or you can control both with Duo Dip combination lice and fly dip, but only during the Verbac Spring offer from your Verbac reseller.
time to call Novus Windscreen Repairs. For windscreen chip or crack repairs, scratch removal or replacements, trust Novus to save you money. Choose Novus mobile or drive-in workshop service. Novus repairs what others can't. Trust Novus.
To celebrate their 20th birthday, Country Design would like to give you a $20 gift voucher. Keep it or surprise someone. Put a self-addressed stamped envelope in a letter marked gift voucher to Country Design and we'll post your voucher back to you. Happy 20th birthday, Country Design.
Heading off on holidays? Then leave your car with the people who care. Jetport Parking Tullamarine. On arrival, we transfer you and your luggage to our vehicle and drive you direct to your airline departure lounge. So as you fly off, you can be sure your car is being cared for. On your return, we'll collect you from the airport and bring you back to your car. So when you're heading overseas or interstate, leave your car with Jetport Parking Tullamarine. Book toll-free or through your local RACV shop. We've got you covered.
Well, this is it, the big one, the challenge. It's time to take on the mountain, everyone's favourite, the FAI 1000 at Bathurst, October 6 and 7. Where else? 10 Victoria, your home of motorsport.
At some time in our lives, we all need a little care. Those of us with a mental illness need a little extra care. Inclusion is part of the solution. World Mental Health Day, October 10.
He's charmed countless celebrities, but we're glad he's still a lad at heart.
Check out the hairstyle. As if not having genitals was bad enough.
This week on Rove, stylish songstress Natalie Imbruglia and Alex Lloyd. Rove Live, 9:30 Tuesday.
The Clarion Sandown 500. Grant's in the pits.
Well, we're coming down to the business end of the day, a time to conserve, look after the car to make it to the flag, but nobody's telling Jim Richards. He's charging around with Tony Quinn in their GT3, setting some of the fastest laps of the day. A surprising note, the Mustang Cobra hasn't made the distance. Ross Palmer and David Wood, a late call-up for that car, leaking diff oil. The flag marshals determined that that was becoming too dangerous and called them in. And then shock, Stephen Johnson out with a collapsed suspension. He'd radioed in saying the steering angle was getting progressively worse until it collapsed as he tried to make a passing move. The Diablo's day shot to pieces. Then the Enduro claimed a Ferrari scalp. Steve Beard's 360 Modena pulled into pit lane with a mechanical failure. He and Craig Baird would not continue. Plenty of action as this race unfolds, and there's plenty more to come as we continue the Clarion Sandown 500.
This is the battle for the race lead here between Neil Bates in the Porsche. In behind him, John Bowe, who is closing right in, but time now, though, to go back to the pits. And Brenton Ramsey.
Steve Beard's leading the race by about 20 seconds. What happened?
We think a diff's gone on the car. We had some gear change issues as well, so I wasn't able to lap as quick as I could. But, you know, that's the way it goes. These cars haven't run a race like this before, so we live and learn. Craig did a really good job. You know, I think he we could have put him back in later on and run the same pace, but that's the way it goes. I think the other Bud guys, let's wish them good luck.
So how tight is it now at the front of the field? John Bowe making a run down the inside of Neil Bates. Bates shuts the door. Up the back straight at Sandown. They'll touch 245 Ks here. Again, Bowe to the outside. Bates holds the line.
End of Dandenong Road. Bates has got it covered. So a good move by the three-time Australian Rally champion in the car that he's sharing with Steve Webb as Bowe looks for a different line.
Both cars get off the corner well. You can see a bit of damage now to the rear of the Bates Porsche too. He's been touched up by someone in the rear bumper in the last half hour or so of this race.
Put yourself in John Bowe's shoes as he finds a way past. I guess it was only a matter of time.
It was only a matter of time. JB's doing a fantastic job out there in Tom Waring's Ferrari, but likewise Bates has been doing a good job in Steve Webb's Porsche. I would be surprised if Bates can't hang on to Bowe, but Bowe is familiar with the Ferraris, although he hasn't raced a 360 before. He knows his way around this track, having won the event twice before.
It's a good point that you make about John Bowe in the Ferrari, because the last time he actually raced one in GTB or Nations Cup terms was 3 years ago. He certainly hasn't raced the 360 before, so he's settled back into it. We know how diverse and how experienced he is, and doing a good job. Can Bates stay in touch? That's the question.
I have to say, pretty much on their lap times now, Rusty. I mean, they're pretty much trading high 17s or low 18s. So Neil has done a great job. He drove this car at Eastern Creek the last round of Nations Cup Championship. Steve Webb gave him the opportunity to have a steer. But Mike Newton, Wayne Jones, all the team have put together a very, very good package. They've just concentrated on race pace. He did a 1:17.1 in qualifying, so the car certainly is very quick when you compare it to Jimmy Richards' pole time of 1:16.9.
Now, getting back to what I said, I think he will be able to keep up. I mean, as is always the case, when you're in front and you're defending, your lap times are going to be slower, and we saw that with Bates. He's being very protective of his corners, but now that he's got no one behind him, he'll open up his lines again, and as I say, he'll be able to keep up with Bow and race to the flag.
The gap's a little bigger now. Jon Bow seems to be using the Ferrari, I guess, to its main advantage, and has pulled out a bit on Neil Bates. Bates enjoying a couple of firsts, I guess, if you like, this weekend, and that was his first Budweiser Top Gun shootout yesterday, Craig.
Yeah, he did a great job. Very spectacular. Wasn't quite as fast in the shootout as he wanted to be. Actually, he set a faster time in the qualifying session, but he was great to watch. I mean, that three-time Australian Rally Championship experience came to the fore, and he was just spectacular.
In the latter stages of this race, Damien, some of the guys are still using the curb, so I guess you've got to throw caution to the wind at some point, don't you?
Well, you want to win, but you've always got to remember that to finish first you have to finish.
Into the pits for the VIP Pet Foods Porsche, Tony Quinn and Jon Bow, their final stop, Craig.
Absolutely, riding with Bob Hughes. Rick Bates now leading the high-performance class still, as they've pretty much done all day since the Floyd McConville car went out. In fact, Boat Ride Anderson in the Altura Subaru are running second, but they're just on the road in front of Bates and Hughes's car. So what I dare say Boat Ride will be trying to do is prevent Bates and Hughes going past in case of a safety car situation, because that would then put them one lap down.
VIP Pet Foods Porsche leaves pit lane. Jim Richards back at the wheel for the final stint here in the Clarion Sandown 500.
Now this is very interesting, because I believe that both Jimmy and Tony Quinn now have done their last stop, whereas Bates and Bow have yet to make their final compulsory pit stop.
There's Fitzgerald. Or Morgan, who's at the wheel, I should say, of the Falcon Tyres Porsche. They're continuing to nurse that car around the track. Keep in mind, they can't get it into fifth gear, so they're riding it right on the rev limit in fourth down the back straight, which is hampering their progress.
So Jimmy Richards now on the run. No more pit stops to make. Full tanks of fuel. He's got to run to the finish and run down. His arch rival Jon Bow, who of course has won this event twice before, 93 94 with the Dick Johnson team. Jimmy Richards has won it twice before as well.
Yeah, his first win was 17 years ago, I think, in 1984. But out of all the drivers in the field, I couldn't think of anyone else other than Jim Richards to be finishing the race in my car.
Final stop for Neil Bates, the rally champion, in. He's going to stay behind the wheel, so in much the same fashion as we've seen with Jon Bow, the final stint being run by I guess, the more experienced driver in those combinations. There we see that Jim Richards finds a way past Jeff Morgan.
It was always going to be easy work for Jim, though, with the problems Fitzgerald has with the gearbox, and as they've been teammates in the past, I was sure that for sure and certain that Fitzy wasn't going to do anything, you know.
Yeah, he wouldn't do anything to jeopardise the situation at all there. Now, Jon Bow in the pit lane. Now, I guess this should be the final stop, but not under the rules, though, Craig. There's actually 4 to complete, isn't there?
By my calculations, Rusty, this is actually stop 3, so he's got this stop and 1 more to make.
You'll notice the guy on the left is holding the vent bottle. As soon as that starts to get filled with fuel, they'll disconnect the churn. There's the filler man on the right. At the actual filling system is a guy running the dead man's handle. He will be keeping a close eye on a stopwatch to see how fast the fuel flowed in.
18
That'll
seconds.
tell them how much. Yep, 18 seconds. That's a good stop.
It's a fantastic looking stop. Minimum of fast 2 or 3 people, no more than what's required. All in uniform. Geez, they're a professional looking team, aren't they?
Pretty slick.
This will put Neil Bates, we would think, back in the race lead.
Oh, no!
Jimmy Richards has stopped on what looks like the back straight in the Porsche.
See, this is what I mean. Throw caution to the wind, Rusty. This is what you run the risk of this happening. I mean...
Now, what's happened there? We talk about the reliability of the Porsche GT3 in long-distance races.
We're on lap 127. Can you believe it? One of the favourites for the race. Jim Richards teaming with Tony Quinn. That car is out. They're on the back straight. And from what we can gather, there's a gear selection problem, possibly a broken gear lever even. So Jim Richards out of commission for the Clarion Sandown 500. The former winner is not going to do it again here today.
The damage to the left-hand front splitter of the Chrysler Viper that Darren Palmer's currently driving. In fact, into the 17s. Oh, smoke from the Osborne Shaw MR2.
Just looked like a brake lock up there.
Now, they're running 3rd in their class, so at one stage they were leading in the hands of Rick Shaw. No, in fact, I'd say, Rusty, there might be some kind of problem with the front end of the car.
Actually, in fact, that's a flat left tyre by the looks of it at the front of the car. So the race of attrition continues here at Sandown. Jon Davison leading by a narrow margin, just 4 seconds over Neil Bates for the run to the flag. They are 2 laps down, but Jeff Morgan and Peter Fitzgerald have staged a massive fight back here today.
Loadsman and Love still leading the production car class from McElroy and Yulden in the Ford. Further back in the field, father and son, Kent and Luke Yulden as well.
This is the Clarion Sandown 500. The race to the finish is just moments away.
You killed 7 people and you think we're going to toy with you?
How's it going? How's it going? I meant like hello. And breathe. I'll do that stuff.
Gun, Danny! You lay your gun down or you die here, pal.
Don't throw things at us, or we'll throw things at you.
This is the very best of Prince. 17 massive hits, including 1999, Little Red Corvette, Raspberry Beret, Purple Rain, Cream, and the brilliant When Doves Cry. The very best of Prince includes all his hits, Let's Go Crazy, and Kiss. The very best of Prince, out now. Time to call Novus Windscreen Repairs. For windscreen chip or crack repairs, scratch removal or replacements, trust Novus to save you money. Choose Novus mobile or drive-in workshop service. Novus repairs what others can't. Trust Novus.
Ah, spring. A time when the grass grows and your garden becomes a jungle. A time when you need the right equipment to keep your garden looking great. Bolton Motorcycles and Power Equipment can help you with their huge spring sale. For 2 days, save on all leading brands, including Stihl, Husqvarna and Honda. The huge range includes brush cutters, chainsaws, mowers, generators and much more. Come in for heaps of prizes and giveaways. For all your garden needs, come into Bolton's 2-day sale, Friday 12th and Saturday 13th of October.
Hello, Mr. Thirsty. Tired of kids' drinks? Want some punch? Crantastic cranberry punch. A sweet, tart cranberry drink from Punch and Juicy. Big, generous 2-litre packs. Tell Mum it's brilliant value. Well, Mr. Thirsty?
Crantastic!
Punch and Juicy. 3 crantastic flavours everyone can enjoy. Get the drop on Mr. Thirsty.
When you think you're ready, when you think you've got what it takes, when you think you've experienced every thrill in the book, think again, because nothing can prepare you for this.
Fast Track Racing, Calder Park Raceway. You'll receive expert instruction before taking the wheel of a Fast Track Super Challenge V8 race car for an all-out assault on Calder Park Raceway. For your next corporate day product launch or just the adrenaline-charged thrill of it. Fast Track Racing, the specialist in race drive and ride programs.
We are back at Sandown. Let's update the action. Here's Grant.
In the closing stages, it would be the king who would fall. Jim Richards was in third and charging home, the only driver to have done all his compulsory pit stops and on his way home until the gear lever broke. He'd won it before, he wasn't going to win it this time. Now the chase is on to hunt down JB and the 34th Clarion Sandown 500.
Just doing the numbers here. In fact, if Jon Davison were to win this, here he comes for the final splash. So, Craig, you were quite right in your predictions there before. We'll keep an eye on Neil Bates' position on the road here. It's only a short, slick one for Jon Davison, so he will retain the lead here. But Neil Bates will have plenty of pace coming down the front straight. This is going to be a real race to the finish. There's the gap. You can see it. If Jon Davison was to do this, it would be his 3rd Sandown 500 win.
Short and quick, you call it. I don't think we're going to even put a cap full of fuel in that thing there. But
amazing strategy called by Paul Cruikshank and Tony looking after this car, because that was quite amazing. They've obviously taken a gamble, maybe hoping that a safety car would come out. That hasn't happened, but they've still been able to get 2 pit stops in pretty much in the last half hour of the race and now maintain the race lead.
Jon Davison, we know what an experienced campaigner he is. There's his teammate, Tom Waring. Is he on course for his first ever win on debut in Nations Cup? Can you believe it?
Paul Cruikshank who was the mastermind of this operation, looked after this car, and in fact worked for JB back in the days of the Dick Johnson Sierras back in 1988.
There was a few spaces there in that pit lane shot there we saw, and Steve Betts, the category manager, was standing by. I just wonder if there's some sort of a problem with that last stop. Do you think there was anything wrong there?
Hopefully not, but Neil Bates with a lot of damage now to the back of the Porsche.
Well, Steve Webb, Neil Bates is closing on Jon Bowe, but now we've just seen some panel damage in the rear quarter. Could the officials rule you out of this race, or at least force you in to rip it off?
I don't believe so. We've had a bit of a problem with it hanging for most of the event because I got hit up the rear very early on, and it just the exhaust has burnt the plastic away. So it's only a piece of plastic, it's nothing dangerous, and with only 2.4 seconds between them and the race nearly over, if they bring us in now, there'll be lots of broken hearts.
Yeah, there sure would. Neil Bates doing a tremendous job in this Porsche, and his brother, let's not forget, is campaigning in this race. Young Rick Bates doing a great job in Class A.
So with laps counting down now, I guess the one thing you don't want is a safety car.
Exactly. We've got a sort of reasonable lead, and I was lapping quicker than them, but their car's got more going a straight line, so without doing it desperate, it's quite hard to pass them.
Well, class leader in the Lancer RS Turbo, let's hope we see you on the podium. Well done so far.
Thank you.
It's actually a good point that Rick makes there, because so far, I know you talked about this earlier, Damien, we have not seen the safety car, and I can't recall since the introduction of safety cars to racing in Australia not seeing one in an endurance race come out.
It's just incredible, and when you look at the difference in lap times and performance of the cars at the front to the cars at the back, and the fact that they're not used to being on the track together, I think it's outstanding.
Plus the race of attrition we've had here, we've had several cars off the track, so quite interesting.
Class leader in the sports touring class, the Len Cave Bob Wright Honda Integra Type R. Class leader in the production car class is still the Warren Luff Scotty Loadsman Commodore, but I tell you what, the McElroy Yulden car are really closing.
They are, but Luff and Loadsman have done a great job into the top 10. Look at the speed differential here as Jon Bowe blasts past. The class update we've given you there, also in the middle of our overall lead as Neil Bates comes through, and there's Fitzgerald. He's just chipped away with Jeff Morgan all day. They are on course for a podium finish.
Dare I say it, Tony Quinn, a dog of a day.
A dog of a day, all right. But look, it's been a huge experience for me, and a really good one.
I think we had word from Jimmy that a broken gear lever or something like that. It was really looked like that was going to be your session. Of course, Bowie had to make another stop, and you were home and hosed almost.
Yeah, but that's the way it goes. The gearboxes in these GT3s are very weak, really, for this kind of thing. So we'll have to put in, I don't know, some other gearbox, V8 gearbox or something.
I think we're actually lucky Cameron McConville's not here in the commentary box. He loves his Porsches, and to hear Tony say that about the gearbox is actually a surprising thing.
Race leader Jon Bowe, the gap just under 5 seconds back to Neil Bates in the Porsche GT3. He's done a tremendous job in this Auto Art Ferrari 360.
At this late stage of the endurance race, it's becoming a race now of stamina. Can Jon Bowe hang on? Let's go to the pits.
Tom Waring, Jon Bowe, 5 seconds clear. It's getting close.
Oh, it's very nerve-wracking at the moment, but JB's doing an absolutely sensational job. Yeah, he's won so many races, so many long-distance races like this as well. I can't have anybody better in the car right now.
He may have had that one stop to go, but gee, it was a quick one.
Yeah, we had that up our sleeve. That was just a quick splash and dash, and we're running home now. We've got a little bit of a cushion, and we'll see. I've got everything crossed. I'm very hopeful.
I know he's paid tribute there to Jon Bowe's performances.
Matt Lehman, I think it is, in the Mazda MX-5.
Has a bit of a moment. But it's also his own performance in this particular race. He's really just done the job superbly. He's returned to racing. He's had about a 5-year layoff, straight into Nations Cup, and straight away, potentially a winner.
Well, Jon Bowe made his touring car debut here at Sandown back in 1985 in a Volvo Turbo of all things, sharing with Kiwi Robbie Francevic. The car broke the diff. It was JB's first ever touring car drive, and then he signed for Volvo for the 86 season. Francevic going on to win the Australian Touring Car Championship for Volvo that year.
What will Neil Bates do in season 2002? The, I guess, unfortunate withdrawal of Toyota from the Australian Rally Championship, at least with their Corolla. Bit of a question mark over his career next season, but boy, he's really done a great job at Sandown here today, and so too as Tom Waring and Jon Bowe. They are on course to take out the Clarion Sandown 500. The third time that Jon Bowe will be declared the winner of the 500 race here at Sandown. He's been a vocal supporter of the fact that the V8 500 should never have left here, and he's returned at this stage in a production car and done exceptionally well. The Ferrari wins at the Prancing Horse team. Celebrate on the wall there. Excellent. excellent performance for Neil Bates, home in second position with Steve Webb. And coming across the line to finish third, I think you'll find that'll be, there they are, yep, Jeff Morgan and Peter Fitzgerald. A day where they just continued to plug away, I guess, in a car that was struggling. And there's the A-class winner in behind, Rick Bates and Bob Hughes.
Len Cave and Bob Wright, winner of the Hippie Sports Touring class in the Honda Integra Type R. Scotty Loadsman, Warren Luff, winners also in the production car class in the Holden Commodore 5.7-litre V8.
Yeah, good job by Luff and Loadsman getting inside the top 10 outright. This is the Clarion Sandown 500. Come back and join us in just a few moments. We'll talk to our outright winners and, of course, our class winners here today. Back in a moment.
Yep, they're weirdos.
I am the king.
And their parents dress them real funny. But you've never seen them like this before.
And now His Majesty will retire to his castle, where he will await the royal grilled cheese sandwich.
It's all new episodes.
You're suing me!
We're suing for $1 million. Have your lawyer call me.
I don't have a lawyer.
Make it $2 million.
And they say it's fun. All new Becca and Everybody Loves Raymond tonight.
We've got it! All the top brands, low prices, and loads of savings. Like the Panasonic Hi-Fi system for just $388. And the Maytag side-by-side fridge, great value, at $2,999. Fujitsu split system air conditioners from $1,088. And the HP DeskJet printer, a low $229 while stocks last. For top brands at low prices.
We've got it!
Our bargain tile and timber flooring sale is on now. Tiles up to 60% off. Thousands of border tiles from under $1. Save $20 per metre on polished timber flooring. Rush in now and save.
To celebrate their 20th birthday, Country Design would like to give you a $20 gift voucher. Keep it or surprise someone. Put a self-addressed stamped envelope in a letter marked gift voucher to Country Design and we'll post your voucher back to you. Happy 20th birthday, Country Design.
Hi, Tammy Van Wisser here for National Water Week. Last year I swam the whole length of the Murray River. It gave me a lot of time to think about rivers and water quality. As soon as I finished, I got involved in National Water Week. Australia is a dry country. We can't afford to waste or pollute water. Water conservation is everyone's responsibility. Dive into National Water Week and help protect, conserve and save water.
National Water Week, brought to you by Southern Rural Water.
When you think you're ready, when you think you've got what it takes, when you think you've experienced every thrill in the book, think again, because nothing can prepare you for this.
Fast Track Racing, Calder Park Raceway. You'll receive expert instruction before taking the wheel of a Fast Track Super Challenge V8 race car for an all-out assault on Calder Park Raceway. If you're after an awesome social event, the ultimate gift certificate, or just sorting out old rivalries with mates, Fast Track Racing, the specialist in race, drive and ride programs.
The definitive America. America's greatest hits. 23 hits on one CD. The definitive America. Out now.
The Ballarat Business Luncheon Club invites you to hear Val Sarah AM speak about the value of volunteers in the world community. 12 p.m. Wednesday, October 3rd at the Norvale Function Centre, Creswick Road, Ballarat. For further information, contact 0438 778 161.
John Bow started on the front row and eventually went on to win the Clarion Sandown 500. But we'll have a look at some of the other highlights from today's great race.
Great result too from Paul Stokel in qualifying, but couldn't quite do it in the top 10 shootout. Darcy Russell also very, very fast in the Viper.
Early spinner was John Tulin in the car that he shared with Paul Morris, and some dramas as well for Darcy Russell and Darren Palmer.
Jeff Morgan from the back of the grid after gearbox problems in qualifying for the Peter Fitzgerald Falcon Tyres Porsche.
The crucial pit stop, Paul Stokel out, Stephen Johnson in, although his stint at the wheel would be a short one. Neil McFadden out of contention. The Subaru became a mobile barbecue, but look at this.
Big problems for the Stokel Lamborghini. Stephen Johnson at the wheel at the time with broken left front suspension.
The Prancing Horse team tell Baird and Beard to shut down the Ferrari. There were differential problems here, but John Bow muscles his way past Neil Bates at a crucial time in the race. Jimmy Richards, who was, I guess, one of the favourites, bowed out with gearbox problems.
Coming down to the final pit stops, it was always going to be between Neil Bates and John Bowe. The ultimate splash and dash kept John Bowe in the race lead to take the flag in the car he shares with Tom Waring.
Well, John Bowe, what a thrilling finish and what a great return to the Clarion Sandown 500. Geez, it was closer towards the end. He was pulling you in, but was he ever going to get past?
Well, I don't know, mate. The guys in the Prancing Horse team made some very clever tactical calls, so I was on the one set of tyres for the whole lot, and they were getting a bit slidey at the end, and I mean, Neil's a fantastic driver, so I didn't know, but anyway, I pressed on, and you're rewarded for your effort, aren't you?
Don't get a better day than that, do you? It certainly was a great race. How were those last minutes? I think we saw you chewing on your nails there.
Oh, I don't know if you can zoom in on those. I have no fingernails left at all, I tell you.
That's high-nose stuff, but what a great drive for both of you today. So congratulations, the 34th winners of the Clarion Sandown 500. We're all tongue-tied. We're all a bit too excited.
Thanks
well
a lot.
done.
Yeah, thanks very much.
How painful would the phrase "close but no cigar" be right now?
Well, I've sort of come used to that over the last couple of years, but you know, for the whole team, I'm very happy for them. You know, it's a very good result, and I'd like to thank Steve Webb for giving me the drive, and I'm glad I could do a good job for him, but close but not quite close enough.
Neil, stunning drive it really was. You put in some great laps there to chase down Bowe, but I suppose that pit stop came as a bit of a surprise when Bowie came in for 1 second.
Yeah, obviously would have been nice if it had taken about 6 or 7 longer, but wasn't the case, and you know, and realistically it was one thing to chase him down, but to get past probably would have been a difficult thing, but we would have given it a good go.
Well, Bob Hughes, your first enduro victory, you've got to be happy with that.
Mate, it feels pretty good, you know, to get in the history books for the Sandown 500. What can you say? Pretty good stuff.
We've teamed up a couple of times. We've been the fastest car in endurance races before, but this is the first time where we've actually had a trouble-free run and got the win. So, yeah, after a couple of goes, we're really happy.
Oh, mate, it's just unbelievable. We came from a big smash in Queensland a few weeks ago. We put it together. The boys finished it on the morning. It didn't start this morning. We've got out there and the car's run all day like a train. We even got up to about 12th outright, which is unbelievable for that little car.
Mate, yesterday we didn't even qualify. We had to do 3 laps each this morning just to get on the track this morning, start a rear of field. Our strategy was try and finish. So Luffy jumped in the car and just had a great run, consistent, and it was perfect.
Luffy, you've been in a few cars this year, of course, so successful in the Mirage Series. Good to have a V8 under the bonnet?
Yeah, it was really good, but obviously the downside is the extra weight of the car. We just had to nurse the brakes and sort of just take it nice and easy, but once we got into a good routine, it was pretty plain sailing.
Well, Jeff Morgan and Peter Fitzgerald also got into a decent routine there, collecting the 3rd place trophy from Lou Campbell-Smith from Clarion, the sponsor of this event. A lot of pretty excited people, and with good reason. It's been a great race here at Sandown. And the ultimate winners, John Bowe and Tom Waring in the Ferrari for the Prancing Horse outfit. Couple of dates to pencil in the diary. Next weekend, the big one at Mount Panorama, the V8 1000, and of course we've got a Konica Series race there, and the production cars in action for the 2-hour as well. Trackside returns Sunday, December 9th from 2:30. That's going to be a great show with lots of different categories covered. On behalf of Grant Denyer, Damien White, Craig Denyer, I'm Greg Russ. Bye for now.